Okay, yes, so Katja is going to talk about options C and D, so improving infrastructure for cycling and the promotion of walking.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the great debate for having me here. It's always courageous inviting me around to speak. And thanks to the audience for being here as well. Of course, as an engineer, there's a lot of challenges we've got, and there's a lot of things that we are tackling throughout our day. Today we're talking about transport. There is a lot of stresses on society, and in my presentation you will see these double arrows all over the place because we're pulled into all sorts of directions. For transport, there are these, and not just transport actually, there are these big national projects, and they are competing for funding and probably for expertise as well for decentralized community solutions. We always talk about sustainability. It's probably diluted itself in its meaning these days, but it does mean that we are living and we are appreciating and understanding that we are living within a finite habitat which we're currently eating away on. And that, of course, competes very much with the constant talk of growth, in particular economic growth, population growth, and with a growing population, also on top of that, a growing consumption. So what I'm saying is business as usual is not an option anymore. We need to do things differently. What are we going to do? The stresses on the transport system in particular, I call it system, but it's very much a human-based kind of system as well. There's not just infrastructure, but there's people and their behavior and attitude behind it as well. We want to reduce carbon, we want to tackle climate change. There are health problems. In the northeast we are the most unhealthy in the country and probably in Europe as well. We want to really do something about this congestion, especially in the morning rush hour and in the afternoon as well, and where everything repeats itself over these funny couple of hours, and air quality, environmental constraints, and come into that very much as well. There is national transport and there's local transport, and there's, so to speak, something like ultra-local transport as well, defined by a certain kind of range of travel that you're doing. There is not so much true anymore over the last years, but over years and years and years, the pie that the miles of national travel make grew and grew and grew. We were travelling more and more and more, and more and more and more unsustainably as well. So there needs to be a shift to maybe even reducing that need or maybe that desire to travel, and the miles travelled probably, if we start thinking about it, would be a good idea if we would bring those down. There are, and this is really, I should have highlighted that in red colour, these short journeys by car that we are currently doing, which are really silly, and we have to cut them out. And we have to transfer these short journeys to these active, green and healthy means. It will tackle an awful lot of problems that we've got. And if you don't believe me, this pie here, talking about pies again, it's always good for cyclists, transport emissions actually split down into distances travelled. In the cycling community, we very, very much say that travelling up to 5 miles, not a problem at all, everyone can do it. I can do it, I travel 5 miles to work by bicycle. I'm not special in any way, so others can do it as well. Up to 10 miles, you can start to argue that you probably have to think about combining cycling with other means of transport. This is why cyclists always bang on about integration into bus systems, metro systems, train systems. That brings you up to there. This is actually the emissions that we're seeing here, and if you follow that green line around it, it is round about, well, it's more than a third of emissions coming from these short journeys. That is really not acceptable at all. And this is a graph lifted off the recent Sustrans campaign, More Haste, Less Speed, I think they call it. And what it shows us is that over the next 10 years, looking at the short journeys, up to 5 miles, we really need to do things differently. And in detail, it is really the bicycle use which has to increase. This is a national chart, by the way. This is not Tyne and Weir specific. However, the 2% bicycle journeys over there has to increase to 20. And it's not impossible. I know that you're probably all not going to believe me that it is possible, but believe me, it is. So our country doesn't really do bicycles, and I don't understand why. I'm from Germany and everyone cycles there. In my opinion, and pretty much is what research says, as well as when you're talking to people on the street and you ask them, why do you not cycle? It's not safe, is the answer. There are no safe cycleways. But looking at this, I mean, you cannot really resist this, can you? You could go on there with your bicycle. You're away from traffic. You're even kept away from pedestrians. Everything is nicely delineated, no problem at all. Same here, you have got a very clear space, not a problem. Interestingly enough, this is a tram station here on the left-hand side. The cycle path goes straight through it, so as a pedestrian you have to start thinking about bicycles at the same time. But it just shows us how in Germany everything is integrated and how normal cycling is. On here you very clearly see side street, you're going across it, driver coming out of a side street knows exactly that something is happening here due to these elephant footprints, as they're called, on the tarmac. No problem at all. A lot of clarity for everyone involved. This is a property entrance coming across here. In the UK, the cycle path would stop. It wouldn't exist at that stage. Here it just goes across, not a problem. And integration, of course. It's a bit of a funny section, this one, just to cheer you up. This is actually outside a shop, a bike pump system to pump up your tyres. Not a problem, use it. This is on an airport where the employees can use bicycles to get around. Integration into trains, you don't have to book, you don't have to pay anything, you just get your bike on the train. It's not quite the system that we run here. Bicycle hire systems are installed all over Germany, especially on transport hubs like train stations. We've got cycle hubs like that where you can park your bike throughout the day. You know it's looked after. You can even ask them to maintain your bike. We have got here a little machine which dispenses inner tubes. Help yourself. And we've got here a system where you can just post a letter and you know it's going to be delivered by bike. What about people, older folks? Yes, they can cycle, not a problem. Sometimes they get off their bike and walk along. Different kind of bike here, by the way, step-through bike, so easy to get on. He, I'm sure, appreciates his cycle pass. She probably does as well. She's actually carrying on her bike quite a lot of things. So yeah, what about shopping? Meeting your friends in shared space. He doesn't seem to have huge problems with this at all. We've got a few shoppers coming along here, also starting to talk about walking and how walking and cycling works together. Lovely. And yeah, integration again, shared space. You can transport things, you can get transported, you know, do your utility journeys, shopping and deliveries. Look at this one. You can walk your dog by bike. You can jump on a bicycle taxi. He's delivering your letters for you, and the granddad, is carrying around the children. So what about children? Children can cycle because it's safe. Children can cycle to their music lessons, or they get carried around by bike at the back by their mum. Mum's picking up her child from school. Doesn't need to be on a bicycle, but it's active transport. And yet again, you just get, you're traveling around by bike, not a problem. Everyone cycles, young, old, not a problem. Here in this country, really, we do need this national leadership and investment and to facilitate these local solutions. And we do need expertise, which we are currently utterly lacking when it comes to cycling. We need to pull and push. We need to build the infrastructure and ask for that investment, but we also need to push ourselves to understand that what we're currently doing, this hypermobility, is not working, it's not the future. There's a moral dimension in this. And the moral dimension, working at a community level, leading by example, to get on your bike or bus and a good communicator. I can sometimes ask myself whether we should get more women into engineering. And the final thought, George Osborne says, we are not going to save the planet by putting our country out of business. I think he got his priorities absolutely mixed up. We're actually destroying our habitat, our own habitat at the moment. And I think when David Attenborough says, anyone who believes in an indefinite growth in a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist. So we can loosen the belt to cure obesity, or we can start to understand that nature doesn't do bailouts and we have to do things differently. And we have to travel these short journeys, not by car, but have to walk them, cycle them, and combine the public transport with those modes as well. Thank you very much.